Hello, everyone. Welcome to In the Court, in the place where every cricketer wants to be. I'm your host, Callum Doug, and thank you so much for joining me for another episode of the podcast. Well, tonight we have the start of the Australia and West Indies three-match test series starting in Barbados, and it's going to be a really interesting series. Obviously, the two teams, I think, are at very different points of their progression. The Australian team overall is quite strong. I know they had the disappointment of the World Test Championship final, which I'm still disappointed by. But I think it's a really great opportunity for Australia to bounce back and get some confidence leading into the Ashes. We see that England's obviously playing against India, and the review for the first Test match will be out later tonight. So we'll be filming two episodes in one day. But first, let's talk about Australia and the West Indies. So three-match Test series, which I think is fantastic for West Indies cricket. Obviously, the last time that these two sides played, it was only a two-test match series in Adelaide and Brisbane. Australia won the first one very convincingly. And in the second test match in Brisbane, which was a day-night game, Shamar Joseph was able to take 7 for 68 to see Australia over the line. And the highlights of that video are on the In the Court and Instagram page, which has been able to reach over 500,000 people. So thanks for the people who supported that video. It was a truly great moment in recent Test cricket history. Let's talk about Australia first. Obviously, I am Australian, so I do like to talk about my country first, and then we'll touch on the West Indies. But I'm really glad that they've made some changes post the World Test Championship final. Marnus was very much on last legs going into the World Test Championship final, and I did understand why they decided to play him and decided to open him, given that they didn't play Constance in the Sri Lankan series. But I think that's kind of shown that those were the wrong moves already. Marnus didn't do very well in Sri Lanka. Obviously, they wanted to Travis Head to open in Sri Lanka with Khawaja, so there wasn't a place in the side for Sam. And, I think it was really disappointing that he wasn't able to play at Lords for this particular World Test Championship final. So I'm really glad to see that he's going to get the three Test matches in the West Indies. And if he doesn't perform, then there's probably a few concerns for the Australian selectors, whether they might have to go back to someone that they've tried in the past. But I really hope the kid succeeds. I think there's still a lot of pressure on Usman Khawaja as well. Being the 38-year-old in the side, you're a couple of bad innings away from your spot in the side getting talked about. So yeah, Uzi had a pretty poor World Test Championship final. Marnus had a poor World Test Championship final. So it will be great to see the two inclusions in the side of Sam Consis at the top of the order. And Josh Inglis is going to bat at number 4. So Australia released their team today. Cameron Green's going to continue batting at number 3, which I think I like this move. I think I can see the potential in this going forward, but with Smith missing at least the first Test match, it's a good opportunity for Josh Inglis to show why he should be in the side. And I personally would have loved to have seen Travis Head bat at number 4, where he does for South Australia in Shield cricket. But I perfectly understand why they want to keep him at number 5, and you're making one move instead of two. So I certainly understand why they're looking to do that in that scenario, because if Travis Head moved up to number 4 and then Smith came back for the second Test match, then obviously you're going to have to reshuffle the order. So Inglis at 4 does make sense. There's a lot of talk about Josh Inglis potentially being the next captain of Australia in Test cricket, but I think those suggestions are probably a little bit far-fetched at this point. But if he's able to cement himself in the side as a pure batsman, then I think that's really positive for Australia going forward. And it's obviously obvious that he has got some talent with 100 on debut. He batted well in Sri Lanka in that first Test match, given it was a bit of a road. So I'd really love to see how the West Indies quicks test him out and how he responds in the conditions that he hasn't played a lot in. I don't believe he's ever really played in the Caribbean before. It's Australia's first tour to the Caribbean since 2015, where Adam Vo just made 100 on debut. It's great that cricket's going back to the West Indies. Unfortunately, being in Australia, it's a little bit harder to follow with the time difference that we have here. It starts at about 11:30 p.m. Or midnight if you're in the eastern states. So yeah, that's the thoughts that I've got on the Australian lineup. It's great that the three quicks are able to back it up. I know some people are really calling for Scott Boland to play ahead of Hazelwood, but um, as I said after the World Test Championship final, if Josh Hazelwood is 100% fit, I expect him to be playing. I don't expect Hazelwood to probably play all three games. I probably expect one of the games that they go in with two spinners and Matt Kuhneman's in the squad after his very successful tour to Sri Lanka. So, yeah, it's a pretty stock standard team. I like Bo Webster at number 6. Whether he's staying at number 6 long term once Cameron Green's fit to bowl, that'll be interesting to see what happens there, whether they decide to move Cameron Green back to number 6, which he has done for Australia for the last 3 or 4 years. So, yeah, lots of questions to be answered from an Australian point of view and respond after the World Test Championship debacle, well, the debacle, in my opinion. Um, Let's have a look at the West Indies teams. Now, West Indies have decided to name Roston Chase as their captain, despite not playing a test match for the last 2 years. I think this is an absolutely gutsy move from the West Indies Cricket Board. Um, I don't know how I feel about it. It just shows that Test cricket is not a priority for these players with the T20 leagues that are going on around the world. And it's such a shame for West Indies cricket that they can't continue to get their best 11 out on the field of their top talent. So, yeah, Roston Chase, after not playing Test cricket for 2 years, automatically comes into the side and gets nominated as captain. It's great to see Shea Hope back. He's going to be batting at number 6 with the gloves. I think he's a high quality player. We saw he was able to get twin hundreds in that test match at Headingley back in 2017, where he helped West Indies chase down a total over 300 on the last day. So I know he's a quality player. He's a quality player, particularly in ODI cricket. So hopefully he can transform that into the Test match game and have a long and successful career. Casey Carty's going to be batting at number 3. He certainly impressed the time he was out here in Australia for the ODIs early last year. Certainly think the man's got some talent. He just looks a classy player from what I've seen, and Brandon King's going to bat at number 4 as well. Someone who I think is very highly rated for the West Indies, particularly in short form cricket. So hopefully he's able to transfer that. Craig Brathwaite's a class player at the top of the order. We saw what he was able to do last time in Australia, where he was really able to blunt the bowlers and make them come back for those, third, fourth, and fifth spells. And the bowling lineup, your 3 high quality pacers. I really rate Jaden Seals. Such an injury prone bowler in the past, but he has been able to show what he's capable of at test level. Shamar Joseph probably been a little bit quiet since his debut tour to Australia early 2024. So hopefully he's able to respond, and hopefully for the West Indies' sake, that playing against the Aussies is able to really fire him up. And Azari Joseph has been probably the leader of this attack for a long time, and I do think they need a little bit more from him. Obviously, a lot of potential with Alzari, but certainly needs to string some consistent performances together for the West Indies to be a chance in this series. If I'm being perfectly honest, I don't really give the West Indies that much of a chance in this series. Australia are very very good at adapting to the conditions, as we've seen over the last few years, particularly under Andrew McDonald. They've been able to travel quite well. They may have not always won the series, but they've always been competitive or been able to draw the series. So that's something that the Australians can hold in good sway leading into this three test match series. It looks like Mitchell Starc, if he plays all three test matches, will be one of the few fast bowlers for Australia to reach 100 test matches. So fingers crossed for Starkey that he's able to play his 100th test with a pink ball, which we all know he loves so much. So what are my key matchups going to be for this series? I think it's realistically Jaden Seals against Australia's top three. I think Jaden Seals has the ability to take unbelievable clumps of wickets. And we saw in the English Test series last year, where the West Indies travelled over to England, that some of the other West Indies bowlers struggled, if we're talking about Shamar and Alzari Joseph. But Jaden Seals was really able to, take a lot of wickets throughout that series. So I'm expecting him to be really dominant with the new ball. Australia's top three, I would say at the moment, is quite fragile. New-ish opening combination, and Cameron Green not having the experience batting at number three. Obviously, Josh Inglis is not traditionally a top four batter. I know he's very capable with the bat, but he is not a top four batter even in first class cricket. So I think that's going to be the key matchup. And I think for the West Indies, if Jamel Warrican can restrict from one end, it allows Roston Chase to be able to rotate the quicks from the other end. And I like that with Roston Chase in the side now, the West Indies have two spinning options. Jamel Warrican to spin it away from the right-handers and Roston Chase to spin it away from the left-handers. And we see that, that being able to turn the ball away from the bat, particularly on a surface like Barbados, which tends to be quite low and slow. I think, having two spin options will be very handy for the West Indies if they're able to bat first on days 4 and 5, if they can get that far in the game. So my predictions is Australia will win this series 3-0. I'm quite confident with that, barring any sort of weather issues. I'm going to go with Alex Carey to be my top run scorer. Obviously didn't have a fantastic World Test Championship final, but I think, he's due for some runs. He's been batting well over the last 12 months in Test cricket. And obviously with Australia's batting lineup not being super settled at the moment, I think Alex Carey will come in and do a really good job. In terms of a leading run scorer for the West Indies, I'm going to go with Casey Carty. I really like the look of this young man, the way he's able to drive through covers and play through the offside, can be really aggressive to the bowlers. So I would expect him to target Nathan Lyon at points throughout this series. So, Casey Carty will be my leading run scorer for the West Indies. Leading wicket taker, I'm going to go with Pat Cummins. I think his bowling style perfectly suits the West Indies conditions. Expect a bit of movement with the harder new ball. But if the wickets do get a little bit up and down, Cummins is perfect. The Duke ball can reverse swing a little bit more. So I certainly think that that would be really advantageous for someone like Pat Cummins, who's able to really target the stumps. It bowls it on a good length, bit of variable bounce. And obviously he's going to play all three test matches being captain. So I would expect Pat Cummins to be the leading wicket taker this series. And obviously he can continue, hopefully for Australia, he can continue his good form from Lords. Jaden Seals I rate quite highly, so he's going to be my leading wicket taker from the West Indies. I don't think that Shamar and Alzari, as I said earlier, have been at their best in Test cricket for a little bit over a year now. So, I'm going to back in Jaden Seals to be the leading wicket taker. And overall player of the series, I'm going to go with Pat Cummins, just because I think he's going to take the most wickets, and I think he'll score some handy lower order order runs for Australia. So that's my quick preview of the Australian West Indies Test Series. Please put your comments, your predictions in the comment section, and I'll make sure to respond to that. And we'll be looking to do episodes for each test match of this series. Please stay tuned for our England and India first test match review, which will be out later today. Thanks everyone for watching. Cheers.